In the summer of 1985, a boy climbed out of a hot car in a park he had never seen, wearing a T-shirt with his own last name printed across the back. There were 100 people there, and his mother told him he was related to every single one of them. He did not know that was possible. Long tables ran the length of the pavilion under the trees, already covered in foil pans. An old woman he had never met took his face in both hands and told him he had his grandfather's eyes. Smoke rolled off a grill somebody had been tending since before sunup. He had walked in a stranger, and by sundown he would be somebody's cousin, somebody's grandbaby, somebody's people. And the one thing that day gave him, the thing this whole list has been circling, is number one. We all have this day somewhere in us. The one Saturday a year the whole scattered family came back into one place, the ones who went north and the ones who stayed, the ones nobody had seen since the last funeral. He was not unusual. On that same weekend, in 1,000 parks and church halls and backyards, there was a child just like him meeting his own family for the first time. It looked like a cookout. It was a whole people refusing to scatter for good. The buses and the moving vans had spread everybody across the map, and one weekend a year they pulled the whole thing back together by hand. We do not do it the same way now, and we feel the difference. Number 16 is a sound, and the second the boombox found it, every single person from 6 to 60 got up at the same time. Number 9 is something the oldest people there did that the children did not understand was the most important part of the whole day. And number 5, the one that could make 100 loud people go silent and reach for each other, is the one nobody got through dry-eyed. These 25 things were never just a party. They were a family proving, one more year, that no distance and no decade could break what held it together. Everything on this list, that boy felt for the first time in one single day. Hit that subscribe button, and let's count down 25 things that happened at every black family reunion in the 1980s. Number 25, the matching T-shirts. Somebody had shirts made for the whole family, and everybody wore them at once. They came in one loud color, the family name arched across the back and the year underneath. You got yours in a plastic bag with your size guessed at. 100 people in the same color spread across a park. For the boy, that shirt was the first time a stranger's name and his name were the same word, printed on cotton so nobody could argue it. Custom reunion shirts became a fixture in the 80s, turning a family into a team you could see across the field. It was not just a shirt. It was 100 people agreeing, in one color, to be one thing for a day. Number 24, loading up the car. Getting to the reunion was its own event, and it started before dawn. The trunk got packed with foil pans, folding chairs, and a cooler that took 2 people to lift. Everybody piled in, the good outfit for later on a hanger in the back window. You rode for hours with a warm pan of somebody's macaroni on your lap. That drive was the whole family pointing toward one spot on the map at the same time. Families drove all day to reach these gatherings, from the cities they had migrated to back toward the people they left. It was not just a drive, it was a family bending the whole map back toward one another. Number 23, the park pavilion. Somebody had booked the spot a year in advance, and it was staked out by 7 in the morning. Long tables ran under the shelter and coolers lined up in the shade. A hand-lettered sign with the family name got taped to a pole so nobody drove past it. That reserved ground was the family planting a flag for one day, claiming a public place as theirs. The park shelter and the church recreation hall were the great venues of the 80s reunion, big enough for a family that had outgrown any one house. It was not just a park, it was a scattered family claiming one patch of ground together again. Number 22. Now, whose child are you? Grown folks kept stopping you to figure out exactly how you fit. They held you by the shoulder, looked at your face, and ran down the line, your mother, her mother, the town she came from. Half the time, they knew you before you knew them. For the boy, that question was how he learned his own place in something huge, one hand on his shoulder at a time. Placing a child in the family line was serious business, the oral map that kept everyone connected together. It was not just a question. It was the family fitting one more child into a picture bigger than he could see. Number 21, the family tree on the wall. Somebody had drawn the whole family out on a poster, and people stood in front of it for an hour. It hung on the pavilion wall, names in boxes running back to one couple at the top nobody living had ever met, and the grown folks argued gently over who went where. That poster was a family that mostly lived in scattered memory, made visible in one place for one day. Hand-drawn family trees were a centerpiece, often the work of one determined relative and a year of letters. It was not just a poster, it was a whole people traced back to the two names everything started from. Number 20, the coolers full of pop. There were coolers everywhere, and the ice was the most precious thing at the reunion. Big chests packed with cans and glass bottles, the good pop down at the bottom in the coldest water. You dug for what you wanted with your arms soaked to the shoulder, and the lids stayed shut except quick, because everybody watched the ice melt. For the boy, that first freezing dug from the bottom was summer itself, worth a sleeve soaked to the elbow. Bulk soda and a wall of coolers were standard, a family feeding a crowd on a stretched budget. It was not just pop, it was a cold, sweet thing at the bottom of the ice, worth a wet sleeve to reach. Number 19, the grill that never stopped. One man ran the grill, and he was there before anybody and left after everybody. Smoke rolled across the whole park from a half-drum grill somebody had welded themselves, ribs, chicken, hot links, the sauce mopped on with a brush. He had a folding chair, a drink, and a look that said, "Do not touch his fire." That grill was one man's whole contribution to the family, given in smoke and hours on his feet. The pitmaster uncle was an institution, often the same relative every year, cooking for 100 as an act of love. It was not just barbecue, it was a man saying in smoke that this was his family and he had them fed. In 1985, if you wanted to know your cousin, you had to be driven 300 miles, handed a paper plate, and left in a park with him for 8 hours until you were friends. Today, that same cousin is a face in a group chat you scroll past. We call that staying connected. But look what got lost. The drive, the paper plate, the 8 hours with nothing to do but become family. The old woman who put your two heads together and told you that you had the same nose. We did not just change how family keeps in touch. We removed the one day a year a child got to stand in the middle of everyone he came from and wondered why the family feels so far apart. Number 18. A table a mile long, every household brought a dish, and the tables ran on further than a child could see. Foil pans lined up end to end, potato salad, greens, mac and cheese, 3 kinds of beans, a ham, deviled eggs going warm in the sun. Everybody knew which aunt to get the good macaroni from and which dish to walk right past. You ate off a paper plate that bent under the weight. That spread was 100 kitchens showing up at once, each bringing its one best thing. The reunion potluck was a feat of unspoken coordination, a whole family feeding itself with nobody in charge of the menu. It was not just food, it was 100 kitchens saying the same thing on one long table. Number 17, the card table and the bones. In one corner, the grown folks played, and they played like the light bill was on the line. Cards came down hard enough to jump the table. Dominoes slammed with a crack and a shout. Loud talking that sounded like a fight and was pure joy. Nobody let a child near a seat. For the boy, that table was where he first watched grown men and women be young and loud and free, and understood they were people, not just relatives. Spades and dominoes held a deep place in black gatherings, passed down at exactly these tables. It was not just a game. It was the grown folks putting the hard year down and being nobody's parent for an hour. Number 16, when the music hit. Here is the sound. The second the boombox found it, the whole reunion moved as one. Somebody had a boombox or a car with the doors open and the speakers up. The song came on, and grandmothers and teenagers and toddlers all got into the same line and did the same steps. Nobody taught it. Everybody just knew. For the boy, watching 60 relatives move in one line was the first time the family looked like a single living thing. The line dances of the 80s were a shared language, learned at reunions and cookouts across the country. It was not just a dance. It was a whole family, 6 to 60, moving to one song at once. Number 15, the cousins you'd never met. You showed up an only child, and by noon you had 20 cousins. They came from cities you had never heard of, in clothes a little different from yours and talking a little different too. Within an hour you were running in a pack, and by dark you could not remember not knowing them. For the boy, this was the day the word cousin stopped meaning a stranger and started meaning his own crew, gone by Sunday, but his. Reunion cousinhood was a real and particular bond, built fast and deep and stretched across the miles. It was not just cousins, it was a whole crew a child got and lost in a single day and kept for life. Number 14, the elders under the shade tree. The oldest people got the best seats in the shade, and everybody came to them. They sat in folding chairs in a loose ring under the biggest tree, fanning with a church fan, a plate brought to them so they never had to rise. All day, a steady line of people bent down to pay respects. They watched the whole reunion from that cool spot and missed nothing. For the boy, being walked over and introduced to the oldest woman, there felt like being presented at a court he did not know he had. The place of honor for elders was absolute at these gatherings, a living link back to the family's oldest days. It was not just shade, it was the head of the whole family, holding court from a folding chair. Number 13, the races on the grass. Somebody organized games, and for an afternoon the whole family competed. Potato sack races and three-legged races and a tug-of-war that pulled grown men off their feet. A whistle, a lineup by age, a prize that was nothing but bragging rights until next year. The grass got torn up and the church clothes were saved for later. That field day was the family being silly together on purpose, grandparents cheering grandchildren across a finish line. Organized reunion games were a staple, a way to fold 5 generations into one afternoon of play. It was not just games, it was a whole family, every age at once, playing in the same field. Here is what nobody tells you about that day. You think it will always be there. You think the family will always gather, that the old woman under the tree will always be under the tree. that next summer will look just like this one. It will not. The reunion gets smaller. The tree loses the people who sat under it. One year, the shirts get ordered and half the names that used to wear them are gone. The children who ran in a pack grow up and scatter further than their parents ever did, and the drive that once felt worth it starts to feel long. Nobody decides to stop. It just thins, one empty folding chair at a time. That is why the ones who remember it should say it out loud, because a day like that was never guaranteed, and a child standing in the middle of it never knew. Number 12. The uncle. Feeling good. Every reunion had one, and everybody knew exactly who it would be. By late afternoon, one uncle had had a few too many and was telling the same story loud, dancing with somebody's grandmother, pressing a folded bill into every child's hand. Somebody's unspoken job was to keep an eye on him. He was harmless and beloved, and the running joke of the whole weekend. That uncle was the family loving somebody exactly as he was, flaws and all, with nobody turned away. The beloved cut-up relative had a real place, the reunion making room for every kind of kin. It was not just an uncle, it was a family with room at the table for all of its people. Number 11. The blessing over everybody. Before anyone ate, the whole reunion went quiet and joined hands. The oldest man or the preacher in the family stood, and 100 people stopped where they were and bowed. He thanked God for the food, for the ones who traveled, for the ones who could not come, and for the ones who had passed since last year. Then 100 people said amen at once. For the boy, hearing his whole family go silent together was the first time he felt how big and how serious a family could be. Grace over the reunion meal was sacred, the moment the party became something closer to church. It was not just a prayer, it was 100 scattered people, still as one, for 30 seconds. Number 10. The aunt in charge. One woman ran the entire reunion, and the whole thing existed because of her. She had the clipboard, the shirt order, the list of who was bringing what, and the phone numbers of 300 relatives in a book. She had started next year's before this one ended. Nobody elected her. She simply refused to let the family drift apart. That aunt was one person holding a scattered family together by will alone, year after year, mostly unthanked. Behind every reunion was an organizer like her, usually a woman, doing a year of quiet work for one afternoon. It was not just planning. It was one woman deciding the family would not be allowed to fall apart. Number 9. The old stories. The elders told the family's history out loud, and the children barely knew they were hearing gold. Somebody got the old people talking, and out it came. The town down south, the house that burned, the great uncle who walked off to Chicago and made good, the year everybody came north. The kids drifted in and out, half listening, chasing each other around the chairs. For the boy, those half-heard stories were the only place the family's whole past ever lived, and he would spend years wishing he had sat still and listened. Oral history was the true work of the reunion, a family with no written record keeping itself alive by mouth. It was not just talk, it was a family handing down everything it was, to children too young to know to catch it. Number 8. Look how big you got. You could not cross the park without being grabbed and marveled over. An aunt you did not remember took your face in both hands, turned it side to side, and announced how big you'd gotten and who you looked like. A pinch, a kiss with lipstick, $1 sometimes. You said thank you and escaped until the next one caught you. For the boy, being passed hand to hand and claimed by face after face was the whole feeling of the day in one gesture, repeated 100 times. Marking how children had grown was a ritual all its own, the family measuring the year in its young. It was not just a pinch. It was face after face telling a child he was theirs, and they had missed him. Number 7. The ice cream churned by hand. The desserts were their own table, and the ice cream was made right there. Somebody cranked a wooden churn packed in ice and rock salt while kids took turns and begged to lick the paddle. Pound cake, peach cobbler still warm, banana pudding with the wafers gone soft. You were full, and you ate anyway, because that cobbler came once a year. That dessert table was the aunts and grandmothers competing in love, each one's specialty set out for the family to judge. Hand-churned ice cream and from-scratch cakes were the crown of the spread, recipes carried down and made only for these days. It was not just dessert, it was a table of women saying "I love you" in sugar once a year. Pattern break, the one thing that ran through him. Here is the part of his story we have been circling. Late in the day, the boy climbed up on a picnic table to catch his breath, and for a second he just looked. 100 people in the same color shirt spread across the grass. The old woman still under her tree, the uncle still at his grill, the line of relatives still moving to one song. His new cousins collapsed in the shade beside him. He did not have the words for what he was feeling, but he felt it, that he had walked in that morning belonging to almost nobody, and by evening he belonged to all of it. He did not know this day would get smaller every year. He did not know that some of these faces he was seeing for the first time, he was also seeing for the last. He just knew, for one afternoon, that he was surrounded. And the biggest piece of it is still coming. It is number 1. Number 6. The kids put on a show. At some point, the children were made to perform for the whole family. A cousin sang, somebody recited a poem, the little ones did a dance they had practiced in the car. The grown folks hollered and clapped like it was the finest thing they had ever seen. You were pushed up front whether you wanted it or not, and you did your part. For the boy, standing in front of 100 relatives who cheered like he was a star, was the first time he felt an entire family rooting for him at once. The children's showcase was a warm reunion tradition, the family pouring encouragement into its youngest. It was not just a show, it was 100 people telling a child all at once that he was worth cheering for. Number 5. The toast for the ones who were gone. At some point, somebody stood up to speak, and the whole loud reunion went still. An elder lifted a cup and named the ones who had passed since last year. A mother, a brother, the man who used to run this very grill. Voices cracked. People reached for each other's hands. 100 people who had been laughing all day stood quiet and wet-eyed together. For the boy, watching his whole strong family cry at once, taught him that these people were bound by something far deeper than a cookout. Honoring the departed was the solemn heart of the reunion, grief and gratitude carried by the whole family together. It was not just a toast. It was a family carrying its dead into the middle of its joy, so no one was left behind. Number 4. The big family photo. Before the light went, somebody herded all 100 people into one picture. It took forever. Elders in chairs up front, everybody else packed in rows behind, a cousin running back and forth setting the timer. Somebody was always missing and somebody always blinked. For 30 seconds, the entire family held still in one frame. For the boy, being pulled into that photo was the moment he became part of the family's record, printed proof that he was there. The group photograph was the reunion's one lasting document, the same families lining up year after year. It was not just a picture. It was the whole family, for one held breath, all in the same place at the same time. Number 3, honoring the oldest one. At every reunion, the oldest living member was crowned the head of it all. They found the eldest, a great-grandmother, a great-great-uncle, 90-some years old, and sat them in the place of honor, and the whole family filed past. Sometimes a sash, sometimes just a chair and a plate, and a line of kin bending to kiss a cheek. 5 generations traced straight back to that one person. For the boy, being lifted up to meet the oldest face in the family connected him, in one moment, to everything that came before him. Crowning the eldest was a sacred reunion custom, the family honoring the root the whole tree grew from. It was not just respect, it was a child set, for a moment, in the hands of where he came from. Number 2, the goodbye. That took an hour. When it was finally time to leave, nobody could actually leave. The cars got loaded, and then everyone stood in the parking lot anyway, hugging, crying a little, starting 3 more conversations. Grandmothers pressed leftovers wrapped in foil through the car window. Somebody promised to call more, and mostly meant it. The engine ran, while one more hug happened. For the boy, the ache of a goodbye that hard was the first time he understood he did not want to leave people he had only met that morning. The reluctant reunion goodbye was universal, a family physically unable to scatter after finally being whole. It was not just a goodbye. It was a family that had spent all year apart, refusing to do it again a second too soon. Number 1, everybody was there. That is it. The simplest thing on the list, and the one that holds all the others. For one single day, the whole family was in one place. The ones who went north and the ones who stayed, the oldest and the newest, the ones you saw every week and the ones you would not see again for years. That boy we started with woke up belonging to almost no one he could see, and by the end of that day, he had stood in the middle of 100 people who were all, somehow, his. Every single thing on this list, the shirts, the grill, the games, the photo, the goodbye, was just a piece of that one thing. The entire family, scattered all year across the whole map, choosing to be in one place at one time. He did not know it was the greatest thing a family could do. He just called it the reunion. And some of those faces he met that day, he was meeting for the only time. He did not know that either. He just knew that for one afternoon he was completely surrounded by his own. It was not just everybody being there, it was a family beating back the distance for one more year, so a child could see the whole size of what he belonged to. None of this needed much money. Most of these families did not have a lot. The shirts were cheap, the food was stretched, and the venue was a public park. But the children who grew up in these reunions were rich in the only way that lasts, because once a year they got to stand in a field and see, with their own eyes, exactly how many people they came from and how many people claimed them. The organizers built that on vacation days and long-distance phone bills and a year of quiet work, and made it look like a cookout. The reunions are smaller now. The trees have lost the people who sat under them, and the drives feel longer than they used to. But the thing those families did is not gone. It is waiting for somebody to order the shirts, book the park, and pull the whole scattered thing back together one more time. We gotta be surrounded. Not every family holds on that hard. Ours did.